Chapter 1. Beneath the Rain of Shadows. The rain fell incessantly, each drop echoing like a desperate heartbeat on the deserted city streets. The street lamps cast a weak glow, struggling to penetrate the fog that hugged the alleys and avenues. It was a night for secrets and whispers, a night that promised hidden dangers and dark revelations. Inside a small office, tucked away on the third floor of an old building, Sam Carter stared out the window with a lost look. He was an imposing figure, even sitting behind a desk cluttered with yellowed papers and empty whiskey bottles. His fedora, faded and crumpled, rested on the desk next to an overflowing ashtray. With graying hair and an unshaven beard, Sam was the personification of fatigue and weariness. But his eyes, his eyes still burned with an intensity that defied time. The old telephone beside him shattered the silence with a shrill ring, a sound that seemed to cut through the dense, stuffy air of the office. Sam picked up the receiver, each movement laden with the resignation known only to veterans. Sam Carter speaking. His voice came out hoarse, marked by years of cigarettes and disappointments. "Mr. Carter." The voice on the other end was urgent, each word laden with palpable tension. "We have a case for you, a murder in the upscale district." Sam closed his eyes for a moment, feeling the weight of those words. A murder in the upscale district wasn't just a crime. It was an invitation to delve into the depths of power and corruption. He stood up, grabbed his hat and coat, and stepped out to face the cold and unforgiving night. The streets were deserted. The city seemed to sigh under the incessant rain. When Sam arrived at the crime scene, he was greeted by policemen who looked at him with a mix of distrust and respect. The apartment was a jewel of luxury and opulence, now stained by the brutality of a terrible act. In the center of the room, the body lay like a grotesque piece in a macabre exhibition. Blood painted the walls and floor, a silent testament to the violence that had occurred there. Next to the body, a broken clock marked a meaningless hour, and written with the victim's blood, a series of enigmatic numbers defied any logic. Sam knelt beside the body, every detail being recorded by his keen eyes. There was something personal about this crime, something that transcended mere brutality. This was not just a murder, it was a message, a challenge. And Sam knew he was only at the beginning of a dangerous game, where every move could be his last. As the rain continued to fall outside, he felt a shiver run down his spine. It was time to plunge into the darkness and confront the demons that inhabited the city. He didn't know what he would find, but he was determined to find out. Chapter 2. The Call of the Night. The rain continued its uninterrupted symphony, a melancholic melody filling the city's emptiness. Sam Carter walked the wet streets, each step an echo of determination and resignation. The city's upscale district, usually shimmering with its lights and displays of wealth, now seemed like a nightmare scene, shrouded in shadows and mystery. Upon arriving at the imposing building, Sam was met by a nervous young policeman who led him to the apartment. The hallway walls were adorned with expensive artwork, but everything seemed faded under the cold light of forensic camera flashes. Inside the apartment, the scene was even more disturbing. The victim's body, a middle-aged man, was positioned almost ritualistically in the center of the living room. The white marble floor was now stained red, and the once immaculate walls were splattered with blood. The broken clock beside the body seemed like a piece of a macabre puzzle, marking a time that made no sense. Sam crouched beside the body, his eyes sweeping over every detail. He saw the numbers written in blood, a series of digits that formed no obvious pattern. "What were you trying to tell us?" he murmured to the body, more to himself than to anyone else. The forensic investigators worked silently around him, but Sam isolated himself in his own bubble of concentration. He observed the expensive furniture, the large windows overlooking the city, now obscured by the rain. Every detail could be a clue or a deliberate distraction. "Who is the victim?" Sam asked one of the nearby policemen, without taking his eyes off the body. "Peter Langley," the policeman responded, consulting his notebook. "Businessman, known in high society." Sam nodded. "And the numbers? Any ideas?" The policeman shook his head. "Nothing yet. Looks like a code, but we haven't been able to decipher it." Sam stood up, his joints protesting with the movement. He walked over to the window and looked at the city, lost in the storm. Peter Langley, a big name with many connections. Many people with reasons to want him dead. He turned his attention back to the room, his eyes catching something others might have missed. There was a slight disorder in the bookshelf, as if someone had been searching for something in a hurry. He approached, running his fingers along the spines of the books, until he found one that was out of place. He pulled it out and discovered a hidden compartment empty. "Someone was looking for something," he murmured, once again speaking to himself. "Something important." The policeman watched him with curiosity. "What do you think was here?" Sam shrugged. "I don't know yet, but I have a feeling that whatever it was, it's the key to understanding this crime." He knew he was dealing with a clever adversary, someone who left deliberate clues, perhaps to play with him, perhaps to challenge him. The phone rang in his pocket, interrupting his thoughts. He answered, hearing a voice he would recognize anywhere. "Sam, we need to talk. I have information about Langley." Sam took a deep breath. It was the voice of an old informant, someone he didn't expect to hear from again. "Where?" "Meet me at the Blue Orchid in an hour." Sam hung up and turned to the policeman. "Take care of the scene. I have a meeting that might give us some answers." With that, he left the apartment, his mind already working on several theories. The night was just beginning, and he knew the journey to unravel this mystery would be long and dangerous. But he was ready, as he always had been, because in a city where shadows reign, Sam Carter was a light that never went out. Chapter 3: Echoes of the Past. The early hours of the morning wrapped the city like a heavy blanket, muffling sounds and turning the streets into silent labyrinths. Sam Carter was at the Blue Orchid, a discreet and smoky bar where confidences were exchanged for drinks and secrets whispered between sips of whiskey. He sat in the darkest corner, his hat thrown on the table, and waited. It didn't take long for a hooded figure to approach. The man sat down uninvited, his hood partially concealing his face. Sam recognized him immediately. It was Benny, an informant with an almost supernatural knack for sniffing out valuable information. "Sam," Benny began, his voice low and raspy, "Langley was into something big, something far beyond what you can imagine." Sam narrowed his eyes.
"I'm listening."
Benny looked around, making sure no one was paying attention. Langley was involved with dangerous people. He was dealing with dirty money, high-stakes bets. But that's just the tip of the iceberg, the secret compartment in the apartment. He kept documents that could bring down a lot of important people. Sam leaned back in his chair, absorbing the information. "And the numbers on the wall? Any idea what they mean?" Benny shrugged. "Could be a code, a bank account, coordinates. With Langley, anything is possible. But here's what you need to know. Langley was getting nervous in the last few days, like he knew something was about to happen. He mentioned a name before he disappeared. Raymond Cole." Sam made a mental note. Raymond Cole. Any idea where to find him? Benny smiled enigmatically. "Cole is a ghost, but if anyone can find him, it's you, Sam. Just be careful. Langley is already dead, and whoever did this won't hesitate to do the same to you." Sam thanked Benny and left the Blue Orchid, his mind buzzing with new information. He had a name and a trail to follow, but first he needed to interrogate those who knew Langley best: his widow, his colleagues, and his closest friends. The Langley house was an imposing mansion in a wooded area of the city, isolated and surrounded by high walls. Ringing the doorbell, Sam was greeted by a middle-aged woman, her eyes red from crying. "Mr. Carter, please come in," she said, her voice fragile. Sam entered and was led to the living room, where he found Peter Langley's widow, Victoria. She was sitting on a leather sofa, clutching a handkerchief. Sam observed her for a moment, trying to gauge her sincerity. "Mrs. Langley, I'm sorry for your loss," he began, his voice soft but firm. "I need to ask you a few questions to better understand what happened to your husband." Victoria nodded, tears streaming down her face. I don't know where to start. Peter was so strange in the last few days. He said he was in danger but didn't give me details." "Did he mention anyone named Raymond Cole?" Sam asked, watching her reaction closely. Victoria looked confused. "No, that name doesn't sound familiar. But he did mention something about important documents, something that could protect our family." Sam made a mental note. "And his colleagues? Anyone he was particularly close to recently?"
Victoria Said.
"He was always with two men, Thomas Burke and Daniel Watts. They've worked together for years. If anyone knows something, it's them." Sam thanked Victoria and left the mansion with more questions than answers. He knew he needed to find Thomas Burke and Daniel Watts to continue piecing together this deadly puzzle. The sun was starting to rise, tinting the sky with a somber gray hue. Sam started his car and headed to the next phase of his investigation, determined to uncover the truth behind Peter Langley's murder. Time was against him, and every minute lost could mean the difference between solving the case and becoming the next victim. Chapter 4: Webs of Secrets. The rising sun cast a cold light over the city, turning the mist into a silver tapestry that draped the silent streets. Sam Carter drove towards downtown, his car moving like a shadow among the tall, silent buildings. He was determined to find Thomas Burke and Daniel Watts, close colleagues of Peter Langley, and discover what they knew about the documents and secrets Langley had been keeping. The first stop was the office where Langley worked. The building was imposing, a fortress of glass and steel that seemed to defy the sky. Sam entered and presented himself at the reception, being escorted to Thomas Burke's office. Burke was a tall, thin man with neatly combed dark hair and eyes that betrayed a cold and calculating intelligence. "Mr. Carter, I'm aware of the tragedy that occurred," Burke said, offering a firm handshake. "But I don't know how I can help you." Sam sat down, observing Burke's every move. "Mr. Burke, I need to know about Peter Langley's recent dealings. Was he involved in something that could have put his life at risk?" Burke hesitated for a moment before responding. Peter was dealing with some international investors. Large sums of money were at stake, and not everyone involved was reputable. He started acting strangely, as if he knew he was being watched. Sam mentally noted every word. "And Raymond Cole? Have you heard that name?" Burke frowned. "Raymond Cole? Yes, he's a known name in the financial underworld. A ghost, they say. If Peter was involved with Cole, he was in very dangerous waters." Sam thanked him and moved on to the next person on his list, Daniel Watts. Watts was different, younger, more nervous, with an air of anxiety that seemed ready to burst. He met Sam in a discreet cafe, away from the curious eyes of the office. "Mr. Watts," Sam began, sitting across from him, "I need you to be honest with me. What do you know about the documents Peter Langley was hiding?" Watts looked around as if afraid of being overheard. Peter, he found something. Something big. Documents proving corruption at the highest levels of the city. He said if something happened to him, those documents needed to come to light. Are those documents still out there? Sam asked, his voice firm but encouraging. Watts shook his head. I don't know. Peter was cautious. He mentioned a hiding place but never told me where. Sam felt the frustration growing but knew he was getting closer to the truth. He thanked Watts and left, determined to follow any lead, no matter how small. As afternoon turned to evening, Sam returned to his office to review everything he knew. The documents, Raymond Cole, Langley's colleagues, each piece of the puzzle seemed to fit together tenuously, forming a still blurry image. He was deep in thought when an envelope slid under the door. No sender, no warning. Sam carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a coded message and a symbol he immediately recognized. It was the same symbol found at the crime scene. The message was clear. The game was far from over. He knew he needed to decode that message, but time was running out. Every minute counted, and the truth always seemed one step ahead, taunting him. Sam grabbed his hat and stepped out into the night, determined to follow the trail to the end, no matter what he found along the way. The city continued to murmur its dark secrets, and Sam Carter was once again immersed in the shadows, searching for answers that could either save his life or condemn him forever. Chapter 5. The Riddle of the Letter. The night was colder than usual, and the city seemed to breathe a palpable tension. Sam Carter returned to his office, each step echoing in the deserted hallway. He closed the door behind him, blocking out the noises of the outside world, and sat in his chair, the mysterious envelope still clutched in his hand. He opened the envelope again, pulling out the sheet of paper with the coded message. His experienced eyes examined the complex code, a series of symbols and numbers that seemed to writhe on the page. In the bottom corner, the familiar symbol stared back at him like a ghost, a silent reminder that he was getting closer to something big and dangerous. Sam picked up a pencil and a notepad, his thoughts churning as he tried to decipher the message. He knew the key was in the details, in those small dots and dashes that formed a pattern. Hours passed as he worked tirelessly, cigarette smoke rising in slow spirals through the air. Finally, a flash of understanding crossed his mind. He began to see logic in the chaos, a hidden language unraveling under his keen gaze. The message transformed from an indecipherable enigma to a series of clear instructions. A location, a time, and a warning he was not to come alone. The address led him to an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of the city, a place that had seen better days. The walls were covered in graffiti, and the cracked concrete floor was damp from the weather. Sam arrived early, hiding in the shadows, watching for any movement around. As he waited, thoughts ran wild. Who was sending these messages? Was it the killer, playing a cat-and-mouse game? Or someone trying to help him uncover the truth? Sam didn't know, but he was determined to find out. The sound of footsteps echoed in the warehouse, and a figure emerged from the shadows. It was Benny, his informant, but something was different about him. The tension in his face and the nervous glint in his eyes signaled that something was terribly wrong. "Benny," Sam called, stepping out of the shadows. "Did you bring me here?" Benny nodded, looking around as if expecting an ambush at any moment. "Sam, I have to tell you something." Langley wasn't alone. He had allies, people inside the system helping to expose corruption. But someone is hunting them down, one by one. "Raymond Cole?" Sam asked, moving closer. "More than that," Benny replied, handing him a flash drive. "Here are the documents Langley hid. He trusted me to deliver them to someone trustworthy if something happened to him." Before Sam could respond, A shot echoed through the warehouse. Benny fell to the ground, blood gushing from a wound in his chest. Sam dove behind a stack of crates, drawing his gun as he searched for the shooter. The sound of retreating footsteps indicated the assailant had fled, but Sam knew the danger was far from over. He rushed to Benny, pressing his hand against the wound, trying to staunch the bleeding. "Hang in there, Benny. Who did this?" Benny tried to speak, but blood bubbled on his lips. He pulled Sam closer and whispered with his last breath, "Trust no one, not even yourself." And then he was gone, his eyes staring into the void. Sam stayed there for a moment, feeling the weight of the loss and the gravity of the situation. He took the flash drive and left the warehouse, knowing that each step he took led him deeper into a deadly game. Now, he had the information Langley had hidden, but he also had a target on his back. The night was far from over, and Sam knew the road ahead would be filled with shadows and betrayals. He would need all his wits to survive and uncover the truth, no matter the cost. Chapter 6: The Mysterious Informant. The sky was tinged with a somber gray as Sam Carter left the warehouse, the flash drive securely tucked in the inner pocket of his coat. Each step he took was a reminder of Benny's sacrifice and the promise to uncover the truth behind Langley's murder. The city's streets felt more threatening now, shadows stretching like claws ready to capture him. Back in his office, Sam inserted the flash drive into his computer. The screen flickered, revealing a series of encrypted files. He spent hours decrypting the documents, each revelation more shocking than the last. Langley had information about money laundering schemes, high-level corruption, and a power network stretching across the city. And at the center of it all, one name kept appearing: Raymond Cole. Understanding hit him like a punch. Cole wasn't just a ghost in the financial underworld. He was the key to understanding the entire network of crimes Langley had uncovered. Sam knew he had to find Cole, but he also knew that meant facing a powerful and ruthless enemy. His phone rang, interrupting his thoughts. The voice on the other end was low and cautious. "Mr. Carter, I have information that may interest you, but we need to meet in person." "Who are you?" Sam asked, trying to identify the accent and tone of the voice. "Someone who can help you. Meet me at the Central Park, near the fountain, in an hour." The line went dead before Sam could ask more questions. He closed the files and grabbed his coat, feeling the weight of the gun in its holster. The Central Park was an open place, but also full of potential hiding spots. He would need to stay alert. Arriving at the park, Sam kept to the shadows, observing the area around the fountain. The water flowed silently, creating an illusion of tranquility amidst the growing tension. He spotted a hooded figure standing, nervously looking around. "Are you the informant?" Sam asked, approaching slowly. The figure nodded, pulling back the hood to reveal a young face, marked by scars from past fights. "My name is Alex. I worked for Cole, but things changed. He became too dangerous, even for me." "Why should I trust you?" Sam asked, his hand near his gun. Alex looked directly at him, his eyes shining with a mix of fear and determination. "Because I can lead you to him, and because I want out of this life. If you help me, I can give you what you need." Sam considered the proposal. "What do you know about Langley's documents?" Langley had proof that Cole was buying judges, cops, politicians. He had everything needed to bring down Cole's network. "That's why he's dead. I can take you to the places where Cole hides, where he keeps more documents. But I need your word that you'll help me get out."
Sam nodded.
"You have my word. But know this. If you try to betray me, there will be no safe place for you." Alex swallowed hard, but nodded. "Understood. Let's go now, before they realize we're on the move." The journey took them to a dark side of the city, a series of abandoned warehouses harboring Cole's darkest secrets. Sam and Alex moved carefully, each step a dance between life and death. They arrived at a particular warehouse, its door ajar like a silent invitation. "This is it," Alex whispered, his eyes scanning the area. "The documents are hidden in a safe in the office on the second floor." Sam nodded and followed Alex inside. The warehouse was silent, but every shadow felt alive, ready to attack. They climbed the stairs, the creak of the steps echoing like a scream in the night. In the office, Alex pointed to a painting on the wall. "The safe is behind that." Sam approached, removing the painting to reveal a built-in safe. He started working on the combination, feeling sweat trickle down his forehead. Finally, the safe opened, revealing a stack of documents and a series of hard drives. "This should be enough to bring Cole down," Alex said, his voice tinged with hope. Before Sam could respond, the sound of rapid footsteps echoed down the hallway. He turned, gun in hand, ready to face any threat. The final confrontation was near, and he knew he couldn't fail now. Chapter 7. Immediate Danger. The sound of footsteps echoed through the dimly lit warehouse corridor, a rhythmic beat that made Sam Carter's heart race. He exchanged a quick glance with Alex, the young informant, and both knew that confrontation was imminent. Sam drew his gun, preparing for the worst, while Alex looked around for anything he could use as a weapon. The office door burst open, revealing two armed men, their cold and calculating eyes fixed on Sam and Alex. Without hesitation, Sam fired, the sound of gunshots reverberating off the metal walls of the warehouse. The first man went down, but the second returned fire, forcing Sam to take cover behind a desk. "Grab the documents and run," Sam shouted to Alex, who quickly seized the stack of papers and hard drives from the open safe. Alex bolted for the exit while Sam exchanged shots with the remaining man. Each shot was a risk, a life-or-death gamble. Finally, Sam managed to hit the man, who fell to the ground with a muffled groan. Sam sprinted out of the office, his eyes scanning for Alex. "Over here," Alex called from a corner of the warehouse, holding the door open. Sam ran, adrenaline coursing through his veins. They fled the warehouse and melted into the cold night, running through the dark streets of the city. The danger wasn't just behind them, it was everywhere, like a persistent shadow. They found temporary refuge in a cheap motel on the outskirts of the city. Sam locked the door and checked the windows, making sure they hadn't been followed. Alex, still panting, spread the documents on the bed, trying to organize the information. "Are these documents enough to bring down Cole?" Sam asked, trying to catch his breath. Alex nodded, his eyes gleaming with determination. "Yes, but we need someone who can protect them and make sure they get to the right authorities." Sam knew this meant trusting someone else, something he hadn't done in a long time. "I know someone, a journalist who's handled cases like this before. She's trustworthy." "Then we need to get to her fast," Alex said. "Cole won't stop until he finds us." Sam knew Alex was right. They needed to move, and quickly. They grabbed the documents and left the motel, sticking to the shadows as they made their way to the journalist's apartment. Every step was a dance with danger, every corner a potential ambush. When they finally reached the building, Sam rang the doorbell, his heart pounding. The door opened, revealing a determined-looking woman with eyes that showed both weariness and an unquenchable curiosity. "Sam, what's going on?" she asked, pulling them inside quickly. "Emily, we need your help," Sam began, handing her the documents. "These papers can bring down a corruption network that spans the entire city. But we need to make sure they reach the right authorities." Emily flipped through the papers quickly, her eyes widening as she absorbed the information. This is huge. We need to act fast. I'll make some calls. While Emily worked, Sam and Alex stayed alert, watching the door and windows. The sense of imminent danger was suffocating, but Sam's determination was even stronger. He knew they were close to exposing the truth, but he also knew Cole would stop at nothing. A loud knock on the door interrupted Sam's thoughts. He and Alex exchanged looks, knowing this could be the moment they feared. Sam approached the door slowly, gun in hand, ready for whatever came next. "Who is it?" Sam called out, his voice steady despite the tension. "It's Detective Harris," a familiar voice responded from the other side. "We need to talk." Sam hesitated for a moment, then unlocked the door, keeping his gun at the ready. Detective Harris stepped in, his eyes scanning the room quickly. "We've got a serious problem," Harris said, his tone grave. "Cole's men are closing in. We need to get out of here now." Emily looked up from the documents, her face pale but resolute. "I've made the necessary calls. The authorities are ready, but we need to get these papers to them safely." Sam nodded, holstering his gun. "Let's move. We stick together and stay alert. We're almost there." With a final glance at the documents, Sam led the group out of the apartment, every sense on high alert. The final showdown was imminent, and they had to be ready for anything. The fate of the city hung in the balance, and there was no turning back now. Chapter 8. Surprising turn of events. The pounding on the door was insistent, each blow reverberating through the small apartment like a harbinger of disaster. Sam Carter, gun in hand, moved slowly toward the entrance. Emily, the journalist, stopped her calls, her eyes filled with worry. Alex, with the documents now hidden, watched the scene, nerves on edge. Sam signaled for everyone to stay silent. He positioned himself beside the door, ready for anything. "Who's there?" he asked, his voice firm. "Sam, it's me, Burke," replied the voice on the other side. "Thomas Burke." Sam frowned, confused. He unlocked the door but kept the security chain in place. Peeking through the gap, he saw the familiar face of Thomas Burke, Langley's colleague. There was something in Burke's eyes that suggested urgency, but also a hint of desperation. "Burke, what are you doing here?" Sam asked, still wary. "I came to warn you," Burke replied, glancing around as if expecting to be followed. "Cole knows where you are. He sent men to get you. We have little time." Sam scrutinized him, trying to discern if Burke was telling the truth or if it was a trap. Finally, he opened the door enough to let Burke in. "Speak quickly." Burke entered, visibly tense. "Cole has eyes and ears everywhere. I worked for him for a while, but things got out of control. I couldn't continue." Sam glared at him, still suspicious. "Why should I believe you?" Burke sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because I brought proof. I knew Langley was in danger and started collecting information on my own." He pulled a small flash drive from his pocket and handed it to Sam. Emily quickly took the flash drive and connected it to her laptop. As the files loaded, the tension in the apartment was almost palpable. Sam, still holding his gun, watched Burke closely. "If you're lying, this won't end well for you." "I know," Burke replied, the sincerity in his voice evident. The files on the flash drive confirmed Burke's story. There were records of transactions, internal communications, and even videos directly linking Cole to various crimes. Sam looked at Burke, recognizing the courage it took to gather such evidence. "You're on our side now?" Sam asked. Burke nodded. "Yes, I want to see Cole fall as much as you do." Before they could discuss further, the sound of breaking glass echoed through the room. Armed men began to storm the apartment, their intentions clear. Sam acted instinctively, firing at the intruders while shouting for Emily and Alex to take cover. The fight was fierce and swift. Sam and Burke fought side by side, repelling the attackers with cold precision. Emily, protecting the documents and files, tried to stay out of the line of fire. Alex, though terrified, helped as best he could, ensuring the evidence stayed safe. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the last of Cole's men fell. The apartment was in chaos, signs of the struggle evident in every corner. Sam, breathing heavily, looked at Burke, who was equally exhausted. "We have to get out of here," Sam said. "They'll come back, and we need to ensure these documents reach the authorities." Emily nodded, already gathering the documents and the laptop. "I know a safe place. Let's go there." With a renewed sense of urgency, the group left the apartment, moving quickly through the streets still shrouded in darkness. Each step was a race against time, a desperate attempt to escape Cole's clutches and expose the truth. Sam knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but for the first time in a long while, he felt they were close to toppling the corrupt empire threatening the city. And with Burke by his side, there was new hope that justice might finally prevail. Chapter 9. The Final Showdown. The night was cold and silent as Sam Carter, Emily, Alex, and Burke hid in the safe place Emily knew, a once grand, now abandoned theater. Its walls were covered in dust, and the worn-out seats bore witness to past glories. The stage, once vibrant with performances, now served as a temporary refuge for the fugitives. Sam meticulously set up a trap, planning every detail to lure and capture Raymond Cole. The documents were ready to be handed over to the authorities, but Sam knew Cole would not allow this without a fight. He needed to be smarter, faster, and more relentless. "We need to make sure he comes to us," Sam said, adjusting the wires of an improvised device. "And when he does, we need to be ready for anything." Emily nodded, her gaze resolute. "I've already sent copies of the documents to trusted journalists. If anything happens to us, the truth will still come out." Burke and Alex, though tense, were ready for whatever came their way. They all knew there was no turning back now. The final confrontation was near, and they had to be prepared to face Cole and his men. The hours passed slowly, each minute laden with anticipation. Finally, the sound of approaching cars broke the silence. Sam, hidden in the shadows, watched as Cole's men surrounded the theater. Among them was a familiar, imposing figure, Raymond Cole himself. "Get ready," Sam whispered through the communicator. "Remember the plan." Cole entered the theater with a cruel smile on his face. "Sam Carter, I know you're here. Let's end this once and for all." Sam stepped out of the shadows, his gun drawn. "Cole, your days of control and fear are over. The truth will come out, and there's nothing you can do to stop it." Cole laughed, a cold, humorless sound. "You really think you can defeat me?"
I kontroll til sitte.
"I am the law here." "Not today," Sam replied, pressing a button that activated a series of carefully planned traps. Blinding lights flashed, disorienting Cole's men. Emily and Burke emerged from their hiding spots, firing at the henchmen, while Alex ensured no documents were destroyed. The battle was intense, a whirlwind of gunfire and shouts echoing through the abandoned theater. Sam focused on Cole, moving with precision and determination. Each step was a deadly dance, each shot a statement of justice. Cole fought back fiercely, but it was clear he hadn't anticipated such resistance. Finally, the two faced each other in the center of the stage. Cole, panting, looked at Sam with disdain. "You think you can win, Carter? You're nothing." Sam, equally exhausted, responded with unwavering firmness. "I am the voice of those you tried to silence, and I will ensure your victims get justice." With a swift move, Sam disarmed Cole, throwing him to the ground. Cole tried to rise, but Sam kept him subdued, gun pointed at him. "It's over, Cole." Police officers and journalists, alerted by Emily, arrived at the theater. Cole was handcuffed and taken into custody, his empire crumbling before his eyes. The evidence was handed over, and the story was revealed to the public, exposing the corruption that plagued the city. As the first rays of sunlight illuminated the theater, Sam, Emily, Alex, and Burke stood side by side, witnessing the end of an era of fear and manipulation. The battle was won, but the cost had been high. Sam knew the road ahead would still be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, there was hope. "Thank you, Sam," Emily said, a tired but genuine smile on her face. "You made a difference." Sam nodded, feeling a weight lift off his shoulders. "We made a difference, and now we can start rebuilding." With the villain defeated and the city beginning to recover, Sam Carter knew there was still much work to be done. But for now he could rest, knowing that justice had prevailed. Chapter 10: Conclusion and Reflection. The city was slowly waking up as Sam Carter left the theater, the first rays of sunlight breaking through the darkness of the previous night. The final confrontation was over, and Raymond Cole was finally in custody, his empire of corruption crumbling before everyone's eyes. Sam walked through the quiet streets, each step an echo of the events that had just transpired. The weight of the past few days was beginning to lift, replaced by a sense of accomplishment and relief. But the battle he fought had left deep marks, and he knew it would take time to fully recover. He found a bench in a nearby park and sat down, watching the sunrise. The colors in the sky reflected a new hope for the city, a fresh start after years of darkness and fear. Sam took a deep breath, allowing himself a moment of peace. Emily, Alex, and Burke joined him shortly after, all sharing the same exhaustion and relief. Emily was on the phone, coordinating with other journalists to ensure the story was told fairly and completely. Alex, still a bit nervous, sat next to Sam, while Burke stood, gazing thoughtfully at the city. "We did it," Emily said, hanging up the phone. "The evidence has been delivered, and the story is getting out. Cole won't be able to escape this time." Sam nodded, a small smile forming on his face. "You all did a great job. We all did." Alex looked at Sam, his eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you, Sam. You saved my life and gave me a second chance." Sam placed a hand on Alex's shoulder. "Use that chance wisely, Alex. Do something good with it." Burke, finally joining them, sighed. "It's been a long journey, but we finally did the right thing." The group remained silent for a moment, absorbing the magnitude of what they had achieved. The city still had a long way to go, but this was a significant step in the right direction. Sam stood up, feeling the sun warm his skin. "I've got some things to take care of, but if you need me, you know where to find me." Emily smiled, stepping forward. "You've done so much for all of us, Sam." "Thank you." Sam waved, bidding farewell to his allies and friends. He began to walk through the streets that now seemed brighter, less oppressive. There was a sense of renewal in the air, and Sam knew that his mission had made a real difference. When he finally reached his office, he sat behind the old wooden desk and looked at the piled-up files. There were other cases waiting for him, other injustices to be corrected. But for now, he allowed himself a moment of reflection. He took out an old photo he kept in the drawer, a picture of himself as a young detective, full of dreams and ambitions. He smiled, remembering all the battles he had fought, all the times he had thought about giving up but never did. Sam knew that the road ahead would still be tough, but he was ready. He would always be ready to fight for justice, no matter the obstacles. Because in a city where darkness still lurked, Sam Carter was the light that never went out.